Hello, hello. This is Taylor Ursula of That's So Pisces, and we have a Virgo first quarter moon to dig into. So, let's begin. This first quarter moon in Virgo is taking place at 23 degrees on Thursday the 13th at about 10 p.m. here on the West Coast. And this first quarter moon in Virgo takes place just about 12 hours before our Gemini Mercury cazimi. So, the Virgo first quarter moon will be ruled by Mercury, who is currently en route to meet with the sun and merge into the heart of it, providing us with what is traditionally described as clarity, insight into who we're becoming at this time, how our mind and our intel and how we communicate have been evolving, what new pathways open up before us surrounding our intellectual pursuits, and how we are able to categorize and understand things. This means that the moon in Virgo, being ruled by Mercury just before meeting the heart of the sun, might be a little on edge as it's embarking upon this moment of clarity. That's because the days leading up to and the days following a cazimi of any kind have the planet so close to the sun that it's a little overwhelmed, overheated, unsure, taking on more, trying to make things happen that won't come together. For Mercury, this might feel like, as it's ruling a first quarter moon in Virgo, this may feel like we are going the extra mile to try to make things as perfect as they can be, right? If we think about the moon phases themselves, the first quarter moon is the first significant lunation after the new moon, where we've set intentions. And with this new moon in Gemini, we certainly have some ideas about what we want to be talking about, exploring, etc. at this time. That first quarter moon in Virgo then is acting on the orders of that Mercury and is building us up to the full moon in Capricorn that we'll have next week. So this first quarter moon in Virgo wants to have something to show for itself, wants to have proof that it's putting in the work, and it wants it to be as perfect as possible in some stereotypical Virgo language. Wherever this may be happening in your chart, you might feel yourself really working extra hard to make something come together, maybe beating yourself up a little bit, maybe getting a little short or snippy, perhaps. Mercury is doing double duty. Mercury is sweating. So, things, tasks, ideas, conversations might feel a little quick-paced, even quicker than usual for Mercury, might be a little on edge or a little persnickety. So the moon moves into Virgo late in the evening here on the West Coast on Tuesday the 11th. This is later in the day after Mars, newly in Taurus, makes a square to Pluto. This is also contributing to perhaps some of the tension that might be present in this first quarter moon, as Mars is our drive sort of butting up against our sense of power. So whatever's coming up in this square might or might not be connected to this moon, but the moon is certainly moving into Virgo after this square has taken place. The moon will then trine Mars, newly in Taurus. So the moon will pick up on some of that information from that Mars, who is technically in its detriment at this moment. So while the moon makes a trine to Mars early in the morning hours of Wednesday, the 12th, we also see this same time frame bringing Mercury, ruling over this Virgo moon, into a square to Saturn. Now, we already felt the effects of Venus making that square to Saturn, followed by the Sun this past weekend. We now have Mercury, who's ruling the whole Gemini ship, walking into that same square, and again, Mercury's also ruling the moon, as the moon is trining Mars, as Mars has just squared Pluto. So we might feel a little ruffled right now. Mercury squaring Saturn shows us where our ideas and how we understand things are butting up against some broader, larger than us thing. This might be the kind of thing where you swear you left early, but you still end up sitting in traffic for no reason, beyond your control, right? This might be that you have an idea, but the group isn't open to it, or we have to kind of put pause while we wait for some other kind of broader bureaucratic issue to be resolved. We feel like we're kind of walking into some walls today, and that might certainly carry through into that energy of the Virgo moon, really trying to, again, ramp up those efforts to get to the full moon. The moon in Virgo makes a square to Jupiter in Gemini at 4 degrees. This is where we might feel that I'm going to try harder, right? We see Mercury squaring Saturn, and we might feel like we refuse to hear no. We refuse to be battered down. We insist and we kind of gas ourselves up, perhaps, into being bigger than the issue or finding some way around it. On this day, too, the Sun in Gemini makes a sextile to Chiron in Aries at 22 degrees. So there's perhaps some personal motivation involved in terms of where we've been wounded and how we are determined to push through. We might experience this a bit gentler and feel a sense of recognition where this blockage we are realizing in real time or encountering before us reminds us of some past sense of failure, and maybe we're able to move through that in some way. At the very least, we might be motivated to try. On Thursday the 13th, the moon in Virgo then makes an opposition to Saturn. Okay, so, yeah, we're just encountering all kinds of Saturn thorns in our side, right? The moon wants everything to be so great, so spectacular, wants to try so hard, and despite its best efforts, which in Virgo it has such best efforts, Saturn still manages to thwart us, perhaps here emotionally. Perhaps there's a sense that we can feel as strongly as we do, and that does not change, doesn't do anything to change the circumstances or to change the consequences. We might be pouring our heart and soul into something, and it may still never be perfect enough. This may also feel like we are trying to put emotion into something or to approach something with emotion that is being met with coldness, severity, restriction in some way. And the moon then squares its ruler, Mercury, in Gemini at 22 degrees. So, moon and Mercury, we might have a lot to say. We might be processing a lot after that opposition to Saturn. We might be trying to understand it, right? These two mercurial signs, trying to sort of understand the data and then get proof in Virgo. So we might, again, see our efforts doubled down here. And the sun goes on to, or rather, the moon goes on to square the sun at 23 degrees of Gemini. Here we see this pressure point culminating, and we get a sense of whether our efforts have started to pay off or whether there's more work for us to turn back and do. On Friday the 14th, we see the moon make a trine to Uranus in Taurus at 24 degrees, and this might see us finding some innovation or finding a way to transcend above the frustrations we've been encountering. This is where we might find some genius energy kicking in and figuring out some new solutions toward these walls we've been running into. And the moon in Virgo then makes a square to Venus in Gemini at 24 degrees. So we see benevolence. We see, again, we've been seeing this moon square Venus showing up in so many of these lunation phases. So there might be, again, a sense of nostalgia. There might be some sense of abundance or feeling like we can start to define things and try out different options and find some sort of benevolence or resource there. We have the Mercury cazimi happening at 23 degrees, and here might be where we find some clarity. We might gain some information that's really helpful to us at this time. We might even just really come to a sense of calm within ourselves and a recognition of where we are in this journey and how we're going to navigate forward. Last but not least, we see the moon in Virgo make an opposition to Neptune at 29 degrees of Pisces. So teetering there on the edge of the zodiac, set to station retrograde in July. This is some heady energy. We might start to fantasize here. We might start to fear. Okay, we can see two ends of the spectrum there with Neptune, that sense that everything is beautiful and like, let me just drift off into that. Or nothing will ever be as beautiful as I imagine in my dreams, and let me despair into that and spiral. Okay, what's in the middle? Perhaps we are a little bit kind of loosey-goosey on this day. Perhaps we're not able to get a lot done on this day. This means Mercury will also be coming in to make a square to Neptune soon, right? So we might see these last days of Gemini season actually just taking on more of an ethereal quality. Maybe, again, digging into some fantasy, getting some sort of downloads or some sort of ideas about kind of what creative urges call us forward now. We might feel a sense of, let me find a way to hold space for it all. What I feel I aspire to, what I envision it all to be, the ways in which those things will never fully translate, and what I feel that means in the grander scheme of things, Neptune style. Okay, let's go ahead and do a quick recap of our Gemini new moon pull. We will then take a look at what the cards yield for us today about this first quarter moon, so stay tuned. Here is our recap from our Gemini new moon pull. If you missed this, take a pause, head back up to this link up here, go ahead and catch up and meet us back here. Okay, so as a recap for our prompts today for this first quarter moon, we are asking about energy that is accumulating now, as well as doubts and complications that arise with this energy. We are looking at gifts that we can access through this energy that accumulates, as well as lessons we are able to make sense of as we approach the full moon. Just creating a little wind here. All right, and as always, we will look at the bottom of the deck to see anything else underneath these stories here today that we need to know. Okay. All right, knock, knock. Oh, that's fun. Love that. Feels a little Neptunian when I said, you know, maybe some downloads coming through with that Virgo moon right before it makes its way into Libra. Okay, so something underneath what we're seeing begin to accrue, begin to accumulate, has to do with perhaps the mastery of sight, of vision. Okay, we are reaching a point, or we are hoping to reach a point in this Virgo moon where we are connected to this kind of like map that we want to guide others along. This is being in full connection to the vision, full ownership of the vision. I'm gonna like Virgo moon this and just keep there. I want this exactly where I want it. Okay. We're connected to the vision and we're able to demonstrate it outward to others. We're able to lead others, right? The king is someone who's manifesting this energy in such a way that it is demonstrated towards others. So perhaps we are connected right now to a grand plan of some sort. Perhaps we're able to show others what it is we are intending to create at this time. Maybe we're able to share some of our vision in such a capacity that it helps it come to life. Let's see what else we've got here that might let us know more. Okay, so energy that is accumulating now. All right. We've seen this bad boy reversed before. Okay, so 3 of Pentacles reversed. Maybe we are extracting ourselves from some sort of team. Okay, this could be for a number of reasons. Maybe a team is coming to a natural end. For example, maybe you have a cohort that you've been a part of and the length of that cohort was predetermined. Now that cohort ends. You came together to pool your resources, 3 Pentacles, to put your heads together, to collaborate, to combine your knowledge that has been accrued in different ways for each person involved. And you have put those powers together to collaborate, to build something, hopefully. And perhaps that time is done. Okay, that's a very nice interpretation of this. Maybe there is something a little more frustrating going on where we might need to be pulling away from this team because we're no longer sharing our resources the same way we used to be. Maybe we've tapped out the extent to which our individual pools of knowledge have been able to merge in order to create something meaningful. Maybe we no longer know what is needed here. Maybe the people we've done this work with up to this point are no longer appropriate for the next part of the journey. Okay, so there's certainly some theme here about maybe divesting from some group that we've been a part of that has served some sort of purpose. Not necessarily the 3 of Cups, which we saw reversed back around the Taurus new moon, where we were kind of separating from some groups of friends. Okay, this might be collaborators, co-workers, co-creators, things like that, things where we're sharing those tangible resources. Okay, doubts and complications that arise with this energy. Oh yeah, is this the right choice? Where do I go next? What do I arm myself with in order to move forward in a way that is still going to be productive to me, going to be meaningful to me? Maybe my instincts, it's a strength here, maybe my instincts are telling me that it's time to pull out of this, again, this collaboration, this investment, but maybe I don't trust myself on my own to know how to make the next decision. Maybe I feel like that's an inkling that I'm getting, but I'm terrified that I don't know actually how to proceed past this point. Kind of interesting to see a 3 reversed, bringing us to a 2. Just kind of cool. Okay, so maybe we don't know what we're doing, even though we know it's time to step out of this. There's a lot of unknowns here, and we are left here to count on our intuition, right? Instinct may be telling us one thing, intuition might be telling us might need to kick in to gear, and we might be waiting for it. We might be more trusting of what's happening here and absolutely less trusting of what we see or what we don't see, right, in the 2 of Swords. Okay, gifts that we can access through this energy. Ooh, that's kind of cool. Stepping out of a bigger fog. Now this is like some straight up Neptune energy, right? This can be a little more like Sagittarian Jupiter in that sense. This is definitely like a fog of Neptune, right? So this is very Pisces vibes. So we can access the gift of stepping out of the fog within ourselves. Okay, I like that. There's certainly some commonality here, and I like that we have this sort of radiating orb here in the middle. This is obviously the moon, and this is a much more abstract symbol here, but they're certainly central to these images, and there is a fogginess going on. So this is happening in our minds. This is sort of happening in our unconscious space. What's the difference? This we're conscious of, right? This is like, I'm very aware in my conscious mind that I don't know what to do. Okay. This is much more deep within us. This is much more spiritual, perhaps, where this is mental. This is upright, where we go in to greet the shadows that lurk within us, to find that they're not actually anything scary. They are simply just what remains unknown about us to us. So this is a nice gift to be able to access, is kind of permission to step out of this state or this stage, perhaps. Kind of funny that we saw the sun reversed on the bottom of the deck for our Gemini new moon pull, and we now have the moon reversed here. Okay, so while we don't really know what's happening in our conscious mind, while we can't necessarily parse through the information that is in our conscious mind, there is an invitation to step out of the assessment we've been in, perhaps of our intuitive space. Okay. Lessons we are able to make sense of as we approach the full moon. Oh, what? Okay, fascinating. We were just talking about you. All right, I don't think we've seen this happen yet. This is fun. So here's the sun reversed. All right, this was at the bottom of our deck last week. And we were talking about maybe still being a little uncertain as we emerge from the shadows of the moon, okay? And I got some great comments from y'all last week in that Gemini new moon poll about not being ready really to move past that Pisces third quarter moon. That was all up in Saturn's business and was happening right before the squares from Venus and the Sun to Saturn. And so we had a very Saturnian energy last week at that Gemini new moon tarot poll. So we saw the sun reverse and we talked a little bit about how maybe we were still kind of stretching into whatever was opening up before us at this time. Maybe we were still kind of coming out of the fog, still waking up a little bit, as you do with the sun reversed, right? We're still kind of in the clouds here happening, right? So, okay, lessons that we can make sense of as we approach this full moon. Where we've been feeling a little delayed, and maybe making sense of why we felt delayed there, right? Perhaps that's this Mercury cazimi that happens right after this first quarter moon. Perhaps where we have felt ourselves is here in this place. And when I talked about this card being on the bottom of the deck last week, perhaps when we talked about not really being fully in there yet, we were still negotiating this space or still shaking off some of the fog, okay? So not that we weren't like, making progress in that journey, but it might have just been taking some time. I mentioned in the Gemini season forecast that everything this season was going to be all up in Neptune's business and that was going to cast a lot of fog around us. Fog is a very Pisces theme and it's very Neptune related. Saturn kind of cuts through fog, but it's in a foggy sign, so it's not necessarily able to cut through it. All of this is to say that perhaps we've been needing to change some things, to recognize where we don't think we can see what's in front of us, and to see actually what we're leaving behind now, what we're able to step out of, to then see where this was taking a little more time. Perhaps this is how we begin to tap into this sense of the vision. We say, oh, I'm understanding more about what this process has been about. These are two major arcana cards, so I love that it's taken more than last week for us to make sense of what was happening here. And it might be that this all starts to become clearer to us with that Mercury cazimi. And we start to actually understand, oh, this is where I'm able to move now. And this is what I'm able to begin to focus on or call in. We have 2 Capricorn full moons this season, right? One is at 1 degree, one is at 29 degrees. Okay, so we're going to have some big energy coming up. Makes a lot of sense that we might see some King of Wands energy kicking to life within us. Maybe this is helping us burn off this fog, is tapping into this vision and recognizing where we can start to guide it. And perhaps that's why we need to extract ourselves from these ties, so that we can start to lead rather than collaborate. All right, I'm so curious to hear about where this is hitting for you, where this is appropriate for you. It doesn't, this is going to hit us in different areas of our lives, depending on who we are and where this is all hitting in our charts. So let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed, please like this video. Please share it with someone who is going through some of these themes and might need to hear the message that it's okay that we've been taking this time to emerge. And subscribe so we can talk about that first degree, first Capricorn moon of 2 that we'll have across Cancer season. So I hope to see you there.